Alright, just a second. Come off this window. Wow. And I just got shot. Okay, here we go. Yeah, don't nobody want to look at that glare. Okay, what's up, radio fans? Big Al here on this Saturday, March 26th, 2022. And we are continuing our reissues on our AM and FM radio stations from across the country. And I'm headed back home for this edition. As we'll be taking a look at part one of the Grand Rapids radio market. Not just Grand Rapids, but all of West Michigan. So we're talking stations from Kalamazoo, stations from Muskegon, Battle Creek, and also Benton Harbor, St. Joseph, which I didn't cover on my original video that I taped here in November of 2020. So Benton Harbor stations will be included as well. Quick disclaimer, there are some studio addresses that I got from radiolocator.com that they pulled from the FCC database. So some of these locations may be out of date. But for the most part, I go to every station's website and find out their contact information and all the good stuff. And I write that in here. So the studio addresses for those stations should be up to date. That being said, let's go ahead and jump right in. Starting off with AM 590, it's Wkzo Kalamazoo, of course, derived from the television station on Channel 3, which is now WWMT. They're known as News Radio 590 and 106.9 Wkzo with a news talk format and affiliations with Westwood One, Premier Networks, and CBS News. Wkzo is Kalamazoo's home for Detroit Tigers baseball, Detroit Lions football, Detroit Red Wings hockey, and Michigan State Spartans football and men's hoops. Notable programs heard on Wkzo include Michigan's Big Show with Michael Patrick Shields. And among nationally syndicated programs, they include The Ramsey Show, which stars which is hosted by Jim Ramsey, Dan Shapiro, Mark Levin, Michael Savage, and Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, which airs overnight. Wkzo has a Class B license with the FCC. They broadcast at 5,000 watts effective radiated power. Signed on the air as KFGZ in Berrien Springs on April 28, 1923. So really, this is the oldest radio station in West Michigan, based on when they first signed on the air. KFGZ debuted on 11:20 a.m. The station left Berrien Springs and moved on to the 590 frequency in Kalamazoo in 1931. Wkzo Studios are located at 4200 West Main Street in Kalamazoo. Their transmitters located in Cooper Township on McKinley and 21st Streets. Wkzo is owned by Duke E. Wright and licensed to Midwest Communications Incorporated. Programming repeats on translator station W295CL Kalamazoo, located at 106.9. And again, the radio station would then spawn the second longest surviving TV station in West Michigan, Wkzo TV Channel 3, which is currently WWMT TV Channel 3, the CBS television affiliate for Grand Rapids. On 810, speaking of Grand Rapids, this is our first GR station on the list. That's WMJH Rockford. La Poderosa 93.3 FM y 810 AM. Consentimiento Mexicano. This is a regional Mexican station signing on the air for the first time since back in 1965, originally as WJPW. Also used WBYY and WISZ as call signs before switching to WMJH in 1996. WMJH has a Class D license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting with an effective radiated power output of 3,600 watts during daytime hours only. Studios are located at 2422 Burton Street Southeast, Suite B in Grand Rapids. WMJH's transmitter is at 6272 28th Street East, technically in Cascade Township, but they list Grand Rapids on here. WMJH is owned by Cynthia Cadillac Cano and licensed to Cano's Broadcasting, LLC. WMJH is a daytime-only station required by FCC law to sign off the air at sundown. However, programming is relayed 24 hours a day on translator W227CG, licensed Grand Rapids, and located at 93.3 FM. And this is one of 3 daytime-only stations that broadcast in Grand Rapids, and one of 4 on this list. 930 is WFAT, Battle Creek. Fat One 102.7. They broadcast a mix of classic hits and oldies. This station signed on the air on July 9, 1948 at BCK AM and held the WTOU call sign up until 2019. That then shifted to a now defunct station on 1560. WFAT has a Class B license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting during the day at 5,000 watts ERP and at night at 1,000 watts ERP. Studios are located at 70 West Michigan Avenue, number 700 in Battle Creek. Transmitter is located on G Drive North near I-194, also in Battle Creek. WFAT is owned by and licensed to Midwest Communications Incorporated. Of course, WFAT resided in Kalamazoo on 96.5 back in like the 80s and 90s. Next up on 980, sorry about that. Next up on 980 is Wkv Otsego, AM 980, the Memory Station. This station plays adult standards music and oldies, with affiliations with the Great Lakes Radio Network and USA Radio News. Their news updates are heard at the top of each hour. Wkv signed on as WDMC in 1958 and used 3 different call signs before switching over to WAKV all the way back in 1988. They have a Class D license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting with a daytime ERP of 1,000 watts, nighttime ERP of 101 watts. Their studios are located at 213 Gilkey Street in Plainwell, which I'm assuming their transmitter is also located there. I put a question mark next to transmitter. WAKV is owned by Vintage Radio Enterprises, LLC, and programming is repeated on translator W255BF Otsego on 98.9 FM. 1060 is WHFB, Benton Harbor, St. Joseph. They're branded simply as Motown and more. That said, this is an urban oldies radio station with affiliations with CBS Radio. WHFB signed on On September 22nd, 1947, they have a Class D license with the FCC, broadcasting at 5,000 watts days, 2,500 watts critical hours, and 1 watt at night. Studios are located at 2100 Fairplain Avenue in Benton Harbor. Transmitters also at that same location. WHFB is owned by Gerard Media LLC of Michigan City, Indiana. 1090 is Wkbz, Muskegon. News Talk 1090, the Talk of Muskegon. This is a news talk station, signing on the air as WMUS AM in 1947. And is presently the third radio station in Muskegon to house the Wkbz call. Originally, it was found on 850, and then it shifted over to a defunct station on 1520 before coming to 1090. They adopted the Wkbz calls in 2005. The current Wkbz has a Class D license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting during daytime hours only at 1,000 watts. So this station is also required to go off the air at sundown. Studios are located at 3565 Green Street in Muskegon Heights. Transmitter location is 517 West Giles Road in Muskegon Township. Wkbz is owned by iHeartMedia and licensed to IHM Licenses LLC. 1140 is Wvhf Kentwood. They're branded as Wvhf 1140 AM, but their technical brand is Holy Family Radio. This station features a Catholic talk format, which signed on the air back on September 18th, 1978, as the Black-oriented WKWM, which was an urban oldies and later morphed into an adult or an urban adult contemporary and then an urban contemporary station. The station underwent 3 call sign changes using 2 other sets of call letters, including WJNZ and WXBV. The station became Wvhf 2010 when Grand Rapids area after this, Robert S. Womack, who owned then 1140 Jams as their time as WJNZ, sold it to the Catholic Archdiocese of Grand Rapids. That's how 1140 became a Catholic station. Wvhf has a Class D license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting at 5,000 watts during daytime hours only. So this station is also required to leave the air at sunset. Studios are located at 2504 Artmore Street, Southeast in Grand Rapids, with secondary offices at St. Philip Church at 112 Capitol Avenue Northeast in Battle Creek. Wvhf's transmitter is at 8545 Grand River Drive Southeast in Ada Township. Wvhf is owned by Holy Family Radio, and programming is simulcast in the Kalamazoo and Battle Creek areas on WVAV 91.5 FM, which is technically licensed to Vicksburg, Michigan, but they wrote Kalamazoo down as its city of license. Also on WSPB 89.7 FM in Bedford, Michigan, which broadcasts to the Battle Creek area. Even though 1140 physically signs off at sundown, their programming is relayed 24 hours a day on translator station W252 DT Grand Rapids on 98.3. 1230 is Wtkg Grand Rapids. AM 1230 WTKG, the talk of Grand Rapids. This is a news talk station affiliated with ABC News, Premier Networks, Dow Global, Compass Radio Networks, and the Michigan Radio Network. WTKG signed on the air as WJEF AM on February 8th, 1945, so this makes it one of the city's oldest stations. They, of course, began WCUZ AM in 1973 with a successful country music format until switching to talk radio as WTKG in 1997. WTKG has a Class C license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting at 1,000 watts ERP full-time. Studios are located at 77 Monroe Center Street, Northwest, Suite 1000 in downtown Grand Rapids. Their transmitter is also in Grand Rapids at Ann Street Northwest and US 131. WTKG is one of 7 Grand Rapids area stations owned by iHeartMedia and is licensed to IHM, IHM Licenses LLC. Programming repeats on WAX 96.1 FM HD2 in Holland. Being in operation since 1945, WTKG is the 3rd oldest radio station in Grand Rapids. 1260 is WPNW, Zeeland, Michigan. Joy Worship 96.5 and 98.9. This station plays contemporary worship music, which signed on the air as WJBL in 1956. And was also known as WWJQ from 1982 until 2003, until they changed their call sign to the present WPNW. They have a Class B license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting with an effective radiated power of 10,000 watts daytime and 1,000 watts nighttime. Studios are located at 425 Centerstone Court in Zeeland. Transmitter is located south of the Ford Freeway or I-196, off of 143rd Avenue and Lincoln Avenue in Holland. WPNW is owned by Lancer Broadcasting, that's Lanser, Lancer Broadcasting, and their programming is relayed on 2 transmitter stations. W243BD 96.5 and W255DI 98.9, both of which are in Zeeland. 1300 is the oldest radio station in the Furniture City, and that's WOOD AM Grand Rapids. News Radio 1300 and 106.9 WOOD. They feature a news talk format affiliated with Fox News Radio, the CBS Radio Network, Premier Radio Networks, the Talk Radio Network, and the Michigan Radio Network. Notable programs heard on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 include Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, Dave Ramsey, Clyde Lewis, and Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. WOOD AM is the flagship station of the Grand Rapids Griffins, which is a minor league hockey team in the American Hockey League affiliated with the Detroit Red Wings. They are also the Grand Rapids home of Michigan Wolverines football and Michigan Wolverines men's basketball. Wood AM is the oldest radio station in Grand Rapids, as I alluded to earlier, signing on the air on September 16th, 1924 as WEBK, originally founded by furniture manufacturers. The station became Wood AM in 1956, or rather 1926. Sorry about that. They have a Class B license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting at 20,000 watts effective radiated power from studios located at 77 Monroe Center Street Northwest in downtown Grand Rapids. Their transmitter is located near the village of Moline, Michigan, off 146th Avenue Southwest and Division Street. News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 is owned by iHeartMedia and licensed to IHM Licenses LLC. And their programming is simulcast on WOOD FM 106.9 in Muskegon. 1340 is WJRW Grand Rapids. The Ticket, West Michigan. West Michigan sports leader. They are a sports talk format and is listed as the CBS Sports Radio affiliate for Grand Rapids. They're the flagship radio station of the West Michigan Whitecaps, which is the minor league baseball team that plays in the Midwest League and is affiliated with the Tigers. This is also the Grand Rapids home of Westwood One Sports. So you'll be hearing the NFL on Westwood One, including Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night football, the NFL playoffs, Pro Bowl, and the Super Bowl on the Ticket, as well as the NCAA tournament, which is ongoing as I'm recording this, and the Masters Golf Tournament. And I think they air some college football games too. WJRW is also one of two Grand Rapids area of affiliates for Detroit Lions football. So you'll be hearing the Lions on the Ticket West Michigan, as well as another station in the area. And I think that's LAV. I'm pretty sure it's LAV since they're both sister stations. WJRW signed on the air on September 16th, 1940 as WLAV AM, which would make this the second oldest radio station in Grand Rapids, signing on the air 16 years to the day after WOOD AM. They underwent 3 call sign changes using 2 other sets of call letters until they became WJRW in 2009. Now, this is when they dropped the sports format the first time and switched to a news talk format. And the WJRW call letters were derived from their sister station in Detroit with the similar format. WJRW has a Class C license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting at 1,000 watts ERP unlimited. Studios are located at 60 Monroe Center Street Northwest, Suite 300 in Grand Rapids. The transmitter is at 1230 LaSalle Street Southwest, also in Grand Rapids. WJRW is owned by Cumulus Media and licensed by Radio License Holdings CBC LLC. Programming is relayed on translator station W291 DJ Grand Rapids, located at 106.1 FM. 1360 is WKMI Kalamazoo. Talk Radio 1360, WKMI. This is a news talk station, signing on the air in 1947. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 5,000 watts ERP days, 1,000 watts ERP nights. Studios are located at 4154 Jennings Drive in Kalamazoo. Transmitter is located off of Jennings Drive near Sprinkle Road in Kalamazoo, presumably near the station's studios. WKMI is owned by Town Square Media and licensed to Town Square License LLC. All right, then you got an AM FM simulcast coming up. 1380 AM is Wglm Am in Greenville, Michigan. And its simulcast partner, 106.3 channel 292, is Wglm FM Lakeview, Michigan. Both stations are branded as M106.3 and M1380, both featuring a full-service classic hits format with affiliations with the Michigan Radio Network. Wglm AM, licensed to Greenville, Michigan, signed on the air in 1960, used two different sets of call signs before becoming Wglm AM in 2008. Wglm FM Lakeview, its simulcast partner, signed on the air in 1989, and they used three different sets of call signs until becoming Wglm FM. And both stations changed their call signs to WGLM, both the AM and FM stations, and became simulcasting one another on December 19, 2008. Wglm Am Greenville is a Class B station, which operates at 1,000 watts during the day and 500 watts at night. Wglm FM in Lakeview is a Class A station, which operates full-time at studios are located at 9181 Southwest Greenville Road in Greenville. Transmitter is on Southwest Greenville Road in Cato Township. And both stations are owned by Packer Radio. 1400 has two stations, and they both are aimed primarily at what would be the southern half of the Grand Rapids market if it expanded that far south. The first station is Wbfn Battle Creek, Family Life Radio, broadcasting a religious format with affiliations with Family Life Radio. This station signed on the air in 1920, so radio station in West Michigan behind Wkz and Wood AM. This station underwent 7 call sign changes using 6 different sets of call letters and became Wbfn when Family Life Radio took the station over in 2006. They have a Class C license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting at 4,000 watts. Studios offices are located at 390 Golden Avenue in Battle Creek. Although Family Life Radio's programming originates from Tucson, Arizona. The station's transmitter is at 160 Territorial Road East, also in Battle Creek, Michigan. Wbfn is owned by Family Life Broadcasting and licensed to Family Life Broadcasting System. The other station on 1400 is WQYQ St. Joseph, Benton Harbor. The new QYQ 106.1. They play alternative rock. The station signed on as WSJM AM in 1956 and became WQYQ with its alt-rock format in 2020. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at just 880 watts effective rated power. Studios are located at 580 East Napier in Benton Harbor. Transmitter is located in Fairplain, Michigan, off Neyline Avenue. WQ is owned by Midwest Family Broadcasting and licensed to WSJM Incorporated. Programming relays on translator station W291DK St. Joseph on 106.1. Short-spaced next to them on 1410 is WNWZ Grand Rapids. Magic 104.9, West Michigan's #1 for hip hop and R&B. And this is a station that Grand Rapids desperately needed. This is an urban contemporary station signing on the air as WGRD AM in 1948. And I will tell you what the WGRD call letters stand for when we take a look at the FM portion of this market. That'll be coming up soon. This station went through 6 call sign changes using 5 different sets of call letters, including WGRD AM, and became WNWZ in 1998. They have a Class D license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting with a daytime ERP of 1,000 watts and a nighttime ERP of just 48 watts. Studios are located at 37 Ottawa Avenue Northwest, Suite 500 in Grand Rapids. The station's transmitter is also in Grand Rapids on Plymouth Avenue Northeast. WNW is owned by Town Square Media, licensed to Town Square Media of Grand Rapids, Incorporated. Programming repeats on sister station WL85.7 HD2 in Grand Rapids, and translator station W285FO in Rapids on 104.9 FM. 1430 in Ionia. I-14 is full service adult hits station. So it's kind of like a Jack FM of sorts, if you will. Affiliations with CBS News Radio. They signed on the air on February 1st, 1953. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 4,700 watts days, 330 watts nights. Studios and transmitter are located at 1150 Hainer Road in Ionia. WION is owned by Packer Radio and licensed to WION LLC. Programming is relayed on translator stations W224BZ at 92.7 and W262DN 100.3, both of which are licensed in the city of Ionia. Short space next to them on 1440 is Wkpr Kalamazoo, the good news station. They feature religious format, signing on the air on 1420 AM, which was assigned to Dowagiac, Michigan, back in 1960. The station moved to Kalamazoo on 1440 in 2011. They have a Class D license with the FCC, broadcasting at 4,000 watts during the day and only 24 watts at night. Programming originates from the studios of WFUR at 399 Garfield Street Southwest in Grand Rapids. WKPR's transmitter is at 2244 Ravine Road in Kalamazoo. WKPR is owned by Kuiper Stations Incorporated and is the simulcast of WFUR 1570 in Grand Rapids, which we'll be talking about shortly. Their programming is relayed on translator station W286AU Kalamazoo on 105.1. Short space next to them on 1450 is WHTC Holland, 99.7 and 1450 WHTC. They broadcast the news talk for and is the Holland affiliate of the Detroit Lions, Detroit Red Wings, and Detroit Tigers. This station signed on the air on July 31st, 1948. They have a Class C license with the FCC, broadcasting at 1,000 watts effective radiated power full-time. Studios, offices, and transmitter are located at 87 Central Avenue, near Lake Macatawa in Holland. This station is owned by Dewey E. Wright and licensed to Midwest Communications Incorporated. Programming relays on translator station W259CO Holland on 99.7. 1480 and 850 are both silent. 1480 was previously known as Wgvu Am Kentwood. 850 was known as Wgbz Muskegon, and both stations broadcasted in high definition and were known as real oldies 1480 and 850, the way oldies are meant to be heard. Both stations featured an oldies format with affiliations with National Public Radio. Wgvu AM first signed on the air as WMAX AM on December 11, 1954, and underwent 3 call sign changes between 1968 and 1992. And then the station was purchased by Grand Valley State University. Wgbz signed on the air as the original Wkbz in 1926. This station was also purchased by GVSU in 1999 and then became WGVS. WGVU AM has a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 2,000 watts ERP days and 5,000 watts ERP nights. So this is one of the rare cases where an AM station actually increased its effective radiated power at night, because most of them decreased their power at night. This one was one of the rare exceptions. WGVS, also a Class B station, operated full-time at 1,000 watts. Studios originated from the Meyer Public Broadcast Center on GVSU's downtown campus at 301 West Fulton Street in Grand Rapids, which also houses WGVU Television. WGVU AM's transmitter is near 68th Street Southeast in Caledonia, Michigan, which is south and east of Grand Rapids. WGVS's transmitter is in Norton Shores, near North Henry Street and West Honolulu Road, across from P.J. Hoffmaster State Park. Both stations were previously owned by Grand Valley State University. WGVU AM's programming was relayed on W237CZ translator station on 95.3 in Grand Rapids. 1530 is WYGR, Wyoming Grand Rapids, Jethro FM, country with a twist. This is a classic country format, which signed on the air as WERX in 1964. During their construction permit from September 27, 1962 through July 1st, 1963, 1530 used WYOB as their call sign. During the life of the station, 1530 underwent 5 call sign changes using 4 different sets of call signs, originally holding WYGR from 1968 to 1989, or 1984 rather, but as identified as WYGR continuously since 1986. 1986 to be exact. WYGR is a Class D license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting at 500 watts ERP days, 250 watts critical hours, which makes it an AM daytimer, being forced to sign off the air at sunset. Studios are located at 3380 Fairlanes Avenue Southwest, Suite number 2 in Granville. Transmitter is on Indian Mounds Drive Southwest near I-196 or the Ford Freeway, also in Greenville. WYGR is owned by WYGR LLC. And even though WYGR physically signs off the air on 15:30 at sundown, their programming relays 24 hours a day on two translator stations. W235BN Grand Rapids on 94.9 and W258DF Lowell on 99.5. 1570 is WFUR AM Grand Rapids. WFUR Classic, which is a religious station and has been since its inception back in 1947. They have a Class B license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting at 1,000 watts ERP days, 307 watts ERP nights. Studios are at 399 Garfield Street Southwest, with transmitting facilities on Wealthy Street Southwest, both in Grand Rapids. WFUR is owned by Furniture City Broadcasting Corporation. Programming relays on translator W225BL Grand Haven on 92.9 FM. 1660 is Wtou Kalamazoo. The Touch, Urban Adult Contemporary is their format, affiliations with the Touch Radio Network from Cumulus. WTOU signed on as WQSN in 1998, then became WQLR in 2007. Of course, they got that call sign from 106.5 FM, which at that time switched to Wvfn. And then switched to WTOU in 2020 after the old WTOU and the Touch format on the now defunct 1560 frequency in Portage was getting set to announce that they were signing off the air, which they did in January of 2021. The current WTOU has a Class B license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting at 10,000 watts daytime, 1,000 watts nighttime. Studios are at 4200 West Main Street in Kalamazoo. Transmitter is located at the I-94 interchange with Lover's Lane in Portage. The station is owned by Duke Wright and licensed to Midwest Communications Incorporated. Programming relays on translator W238AL Portage on 95.5. And then rounding out our trip of the AM radio stations across West Michigan is 1680 WPRR Ada, 102.5 The Ride, which is an urban adult contemporary format. Now, this was the format that was on 1410 until they shifted in more of a hip-hop direction. This station signed on the air as WBHD in October of 1988. Used two different call signs until changing to WPRR in 2008 and becoming what was then known as Public Reality Radio. That's where the PRR stands for, Public Reality Radio, the station's old format. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 10,000 watts days, 680 watts nights. Studios are located at 4417 Broadmoor Avenue Southeast in the Grand Rapids suburb of Kentwood, Michigan. Again, that might not be true since I got this from radiolocator.com, who in turn got it from the FCC database. Transmitter is at 8555 Grand River Drive Southeast in Ada Township. That's the same transmitter tower that 1140 uses. WPRR is owned by Goodrich Radio LC, and programming is relayed on translator station W273DD Alpine Township, that's north and west of the city, located on 102.5 FM. So that's a rundown of the AM radio stations in West Michigan. I'm going to go ahead and upload this to YouTube, and we'll be back shortly with a rundown of the FM radio stations in West Michigan. Till then, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell twice every time I go live. Big Al signing off for the time being, but I will be back. Until then, happy listening. Peace out.